I recently bought Greta Thunberg's book. Yeah, I bought it because I wanted to read, you know, the deep thoughts of this 16-year-old climate activist. For those of you who don't know, Greta Thunberg is this Swedish girl. She's like 16, I think. And she basically hit the scene because she started this movement of skipping school in the name of saving the climate. When I was a kid, I skipped school in order to go and smoke some pot, right? Or go out and read a book that I was more interested in. You know, it never occurred to me to skip school with the excuse of climate change. I should have done it because, you know, I would have saved myself all kinds of misery when I eventually got caught. But anyway, so from this skipping school protest kind of shit, right? She grew, I mean, in terms of image, of course. She ballooned across the global zeitgeist, right? She's not particularly attractive. Quite frankly, she looks a little weird, if you ask me. And in a little while, I'll get to her looks, which actually matter, because I do believe that she is just being completely manipulated by the adults, but that's not the point. The point I wanted to bring up here in this video that I'm making is the book that she wrote. Oh yeah, I want to talk about this thing. Yes. Well, see, it's not actually a book. It's more like a collection of her speeches, you know, and they come with like interesting titles like, you know, Prove Me Wrong and some other. And what are the other titles of this thing? Let me see here real quick. It's Unpopular and Almost Everything is Black and White and Our Lives Are in Your Hands. I mean, you know, they're just titles, and you start reading those titles and you think to yourself, wow, there's going to be something here. It sounds deep. It sounds like a little philosophy book, right? Wrong! There's no damn philosophy in this stupid book. It's just the same crap over and over. You know, I read the whole thing cover to cover on a flight. It takes you about 5 minutes to read this goddamn book. And I'll tell you right now, you know, it's basically the same thing in every one of these speeches. It starts with saying, you know, I'm just a poor little Swedish girl. That's point number one she makes in every one of her little speeches. Point number two is, listen to us, listen to us. Point number three is, crisis, crisis, crisis. Point number four is, the science tells us, the science tells us. Point number five, and which I as an old fogey really despise, her point number five consistently in all of her speeches is always, we young people know better. You know, that consistently chaps my ass because, you know, I used to be young and now I'm old. And when I was young, I was a fucking idiot. Now that I'm older, I kind of know things a little bit better. But even in my old age, I'm starting to realize that there are so many things that I don't know. And when I was young, I was so arrogant and stupid and naive to think that I knew everything. When, of course, I was an ignoramus, like this girl. Anyway. Point six is, your politics don't work anymore. Point seven is, capitalism bad. And she always ends all of her speeches by saying, you know, if you don't do something radical, drastic right now, then the world is going to end and we are not going to have any more future because of you. That's how all of her speeches goes. Those are the points that she makes in every single speech. And does she offer any solutions? No, of course not. Of course not. It's propaganda. It's propaganda. It's magical thinking. It's religious thinking, quite frankly. I mean, if you think about it, Greta Thunberg is essentially playing the role of Joan of Arc. She's Saint Greta of the climate change. That's what's going on. And she advocates change, radical change, but with no solution. There's no specific policy that she's advocating. And when she actually does say a policy, it's incredibly stupid. Yeah, in one of the speeches, she says that, you know, if we came up with some device to cut carbon dioxide in half in the atmosphere, that this would be a good thing. I mean, it presupposes that this would be a good thing, right? And anybody who knows anything about science, even a guy as ignorant as I am, I mean, I didn't even study science. I studied history and philosophy, but even I know that if you don't have a certain amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, every living plant on Earth would die. Yeah, you need carbon dioxide. Yeah, and by the way, a little trick, pro tip for you, right? If you're ever in an argument with a climate changer, right? Ask them if we should eliminate all CO2 from the atmosphere. And if they say yes, then you tell them that that would mean the death of every single tree every single plant, every single algae, everything green, every plant life on this earth would die within 4 months. Because see, carbon dioxide, the carbon in the atmosphere, that's food to the plants. Yeah. Going back to Greta Thunberg, of course, she doesn't know this. Just like the hypothetical person that you're going to be arguing with, the hypothetical climate changer that you're going to spring this on, is not going to know this. Yeah, because these people are ignorant. They're ignorant and stupid. And what's going on is a kind of mass hysteria. And they are elevating Saint Greta of the climate change to be the patron saint of this movement. I mean, it's not just the greenies that are behind her, right? It's this Extinction Rebellion shit, which is just radical and just fucking crazy if you think about it, okay? And there was a whole hassle of them trying to shut down London during rush hour, for crying out loud. And everybody was furious about them with good reason, yeah? Because these people are hypocrites. These people are well-to-do, upper middle class people with all the breaks and all the opportunities. And they are preaching to the working people and the working poor, and want them to suffer for their virtue signaling. Yeah, that's what's going on. And Saint Greta is their, well, patron saint. Yeah, she is their Joan of Arc. And what's really interesting is, well, you know, read up on what happened to Joan of Arc. Yeah, she didn't end in a pretty way. Oh no. Yeah, Joan of Arc, she was burned at the stake by the Catholic Church. Yeah, it's goddamn funny if you ask me. Yeah, and that's what's going to happen to Greta Thunberg. Yeah, at some point in the not too distant future, I'll bet you that the green movement, the lefties, yeah, they're going to burn her at the stake. Absolutely. Because she's an invention. She's an invention and she's been elevated. And my thinking is that she doesn't even believe any of this stuff. And do you know why? Because of that UN speech that she gave. The one where she said, "How dare you rob me of my childhood?" You know who she was talking to? She was talking to her parents. Yeah, that's who she was talking to. Projection, plain and simple. That girl, you know, like Leif Garrett, well, you know, a lot of you are way too young to know who Leif Garrett was, but, you know, back in the day, he was a teeny bopper, right? He was a middle school kid or whatever. He became really popular. I don't even know for what, music or something like that. But anyway, in the end, you know, his life was shit, okay? Same thing is going to happen to Greta Thunberg, because she's been elevated by the adults around her. And eventually she's going to break. And when she breaks, it's going to be a big old mess. That UN speech that she gave, you think that she was talking to the adults, to the politicians? No, no, no. She was talking to her parents. That level of anger and rage that came out of her. I mean, you saw her. You saw how twisted her face was. And twisted in rage. Yeah? No sensible human being, no normal human being, no human being, period, even if they're crazy as a loon, gets that emotionally wound up by abstract people that she does not know. No. She was thinking of her parents. Yeah, that's what's going on. You're a time traveler from 5 years from now, and you come to me and you say, oh yeah, in the future, it turns out that Greta Thunberg was abused by her parents. I'm not going to be a bit surprised. Nope, nope, Mr. Time Traveler. I figured that already. Yeah, she probably is being abused. And here's something interesting. You know, I asked around because somebody mentioned this and I didn't quite believe it. So I went and talked to a doctor and about the issue of her face. Yeah, her face. Have you noticed that her face is ever so slightly too small for her head? And her head itself just seems a little bit oddly shapen. And what's very interesting is that when she is expressive, not when she's like passive, but when her face shows some sort of strong emotion. Have you noticed that her features are asymmetrical? Huh? That's a symptom of fetal alcohol syndrome. Yeah. That's a sign of it, okay? Hey, you don't believe me? Go look it up, okay? Yeah. There's something going on there with Greta Thunberg and her family. Yeah, her parents, I don't know much about them. I haven't bothered to look them up. But the only thing I have seen is that they are sympathetic to Antifa. How do I know that? Well, because I've seen pictures of them with Antifa t-shirts. Yeah? You don't wear an Antifa t-shirt unless you're sympathetic to that movement, right? Yeah. There's something going on. There's something ugly and sordid, you know. And you know it's going to come out. and it's going to get all kinds of ugly. Yeah. But the adults, they don't care about this Greta Thunberg. No, they do not care about her at all. They just use her for their policies. And there's also something else, of course. There are people using Greta Thunberg, using Extinction Rebellion, using the whole environmental movement as a way to signal their virtuousness. Because human beings need to show to one another that we are good and decent. And what's easier than skipping school and going on a protest to save the planet? What's easier than that, huh? And what denotes your virtue and gets you in good with the in-group, huh? Yeah, this kind of empty charade. That's what's going on, yeah? And Saint Greta of the climate change, she's the patron saint of all this bullshit. Yeah, it's a religion of bullshit, yeah? Never forget that. Ignore Greta Thunberg. Let her crash under her own weight, okay? Because she will. This facade that she's projecting, you know, it's a cross that she will not be able to bear, and eventually it will break her. So just feel pity for Greta Thunberg, but look at the people behind her. Look at the people manipulating her and using her to their advantage. Some people have told me that George Soros is mixed in all this shit. I wouldn't be surprised. Because, see, a lot of these people on the left, they use children as human shields. See? And what happens to a shield? Well, a shield usually is the thing that gets hit first. You watch. And you watch the tragedy that will be the life of this poor young girl. Because, mark my words, at the end of the day, she will be burned at the stake by the people who right now have elevated her.